Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show, Logically Leftist. I am your host, a logical leftist, Jeff Waldorf, and welcome. It's going to be an interesting show. So, a lot of different things that we're going to talk about, including a new bombshell report about who is really running the Justice Department, or I should say currently the Injustice Department, run by allegedly Pam Bondi, but again, we're going to see who's really calling the shots. Then we have a grand jury that has indicted a Milwaukee judge on what? For apparently, allegedly blocking ICE agents from doing an arrest. So there's that. Yes, the United States Department of Injustice. Absolutely. Then we've got AOC talking about Republican math. So we got some alternative math from the Republicans on the issue of Medicaid. And I'm going to have the real numbers for you, of course. And then we've got, yes, it's an older story that I don't think got a lot of traction, got a lot of people talking about it. But yesterday I had talked about, efforts to, in Texas, to pass bills about sex. Well, now Texas last month actually proposed yet another bill. This would require identification for sex toys. So we have that. Republican math, I thought they didn't believe in math. Well, they don't. They believe in alternative math. So, it's one of those things. And then finally, yes, I am going to talk about the DNC's efforts to oust Vice Chair David Hogg. So that is another interesting story. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very controversial. There's going to be people that many people will be angry. So there you go. Many will be angered by what's going on, and probably my position on it. But probably not you all who are watching at home right now, who are fans of the show. So there you go. The potheads are here on time. Everyone else is late. You know what? Going back to that, to Gandalf, and I'm probably going to destroy this quote here, but, a wizard shows up exactly when they're supposed to. So, I mean, that's basically me right here. Okay. I'm Gandalf in this one. Okay. You already have to be 18 to enter an adult DVD store. What's the point of showing ID? Yeah, well, the point of showing ID is to shame people into not consuming pornographic material. That's the ultimate here, but we'll get into that story. So I don't want to give away too much. But anyway, let's start out here with a New York Times report about who is actually running the Justice Department. Fun times. Oh, before I get into it too, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. I want to thank Boston C-Rad for joining as a member. That's over on our YouTube page. So there's that. And of course, I also do want to thank, let's go down here and thank, let's see, a lot of free members joining over on our Patreon page, which again, Patreon, look, you're just there to support the show. So you already get everything for free online, the clips and the videos and stuff. But I do post the audio version of the show without ads over on our Patreon page. And I'm just hoping that enough people will sign up to support the show. That's really what I'm asking for. Just help out with the show so that I don't have to rely on just YouTube earnings, which are just wild, and not something to really depend on. So, and I do want to thank, of course, Madi Darmo, Shannon Burke, Virginia Mackey, and C. Basil for being members, patrons on our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. All right. So with that, why don't I dive into today's segments here? Mekong Delta Rising Sun writes, David Hogg is a breath of fresh air and is spot on with his ideas for the DNC. The old folks need to pay attention and embrace what he's doing. I agree, but they do not. They are pushing back against him incredibly hard. So, anyway, let's do it. Let's dive in. The New York Times. The real leader. Oh. And he even looks super goblin-like and evil in that picture. And it's hard not to find a picture where he doesn't look like a goblin. So, there you go. All right. A new report in the New York Times is claiming that the Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, is actually running the shadow cabinet, at least when it comes to the Department of Justice. Well, wait a minute. Where does that leave Attorney General Pam Bondi? As nothing more than a figurehead. Of course. Of course. Now, the Times spoke with 20 current and former staffers about Bondi's first few months in her position, and reports that Bondi essentially sees her role as that of a surrogate, a faithful executor, and a high-volume messenger, compelled to cede ground to empowered players in the West Wing. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. And of course, one of those players, this guy. Now, while she had a reputation as a hard-charging prosecutor, as Attorney General of Florida, since taking the role of the nation's chief legal officer, she has adopted a, quote, performative approach and demonstrated a willingness to execute White House directives, the Times reports. So, basically, you have the White House that is directly controlling the Department of Justice through Stephen Miller, with Bondi acting as the pretty face. Oh, great. Which kind of fits, of course, Trump's MO. I mean, he chooses people based on how well they look on television, and apparently Bondi looked pretty well. Now, the report notes that this entire situation is, be surprised here, okay? Well, once again, the Trump administration, this is a noticeable departure from the stance taken by previous heads of the Justice Department, who focused on the department's independence from the presidency. Well, we do not have a Justice Department that is at all separate now from the presidency. In fact, according to Elizabeth Oyer, the department's former top pardon lawyer, who happened to have gotten fired after refusing to restore the gun ownership rights to Mel Gibson. Yes, that's right. She told the newspaper the decisions are being made at the White House and then they're being pushed down to the Department of Justice, which is very, very atypical. It feels like she's just performing a part. She is like an actor in a way. Big surprise. Big surprise. Pam Bondi is basically what this administration thinks of women in roles that are, have power, right? Which in the fact that they don't really have real power. They're just eye candy, while there's a man behind the scenes that is actually running the show. Citing current and former Trump aides, the Times states that it was clear from the start that Mr. Miller, who's not a lawyer, by the way, but he sure doesn't really play one on TV, okay, would exercise control inside the department. You know what this makes me think of? The Deep State. Deep State Stephen Miller. It's a new name. I mean, at least it kind of sounds like Deep State Shadow Cabinet stuff, okay? It's crazy. That said, when Miller makes a decision, the details are reportedly discussed with Bondi, as well as Trump's two former defense lawyers, Todd Blanche and Emil Bove, whom the president appointed to the Justice Department and who help run the day-to-day operations. Edward Whalen, a conservative former Justice Department official, told the paper that I can't recall a returning general who seemed willing to be subordinate to White House staffers. Well, hey, things are different now. Okay, we got Trump. But here's the thing, though, about this. So obviously, Pam Bondi not only knows her place, but you can also say that generally she agrees with Stephen Miller. So, I mean, if that's not an indictment against her, you know, that at least should be seen that way by normal people. Because MAGA ain't normal. Okay? Normal people are going to see that and be like, she agrees with Stephen Miller. Oh, boy, that's ugly. That's real ugly. Now, according to officials who spoke with the Times, Bondi, while she has been consulted on key decisions, including how to respond to a federal judge's order to return immigrants deported to El Salvador with no due process, which is illegal, she does not appear to have played a major role in creating overall strategy, focusing on aligning her department with the Trump game plan and framing attacks on opponents. Yes. Now, while she apparently loves her position, is totally fine with being Stephen Miller's bitch, okay, there were some tensions early on. Okay, and guess what happened there? I'll tell you. So Stephen Miller was not happy with one of her nominations. That's Chad Chronister, a Florida county sheriff, to lead the DEA. So she picks this guy, and Stephen Miller's like, I don't like this guy. Get rid of him. So what happened? She got rid of him. I mean, look, yes, Chronister ended up withdrawing from consideration. And actually, it's more like she got loomered, or he got loomered, I should say. Because you had the right wing that raged at reports that he had arrested a pastor that violated COVID-19 lockdown regulations and had held a church service. The Times reports that Trump was miffed, asking advisors why Bondi would have even recommended this guy. Yes, recommended this guy who actually was following the law on COVID and the lockdowns. Yeah, of course. And look, once he was out, though, apparently everything just kind of smoothed itself over because not only is Bondi good at going on Fox News to attack Donald Trump's political enemies, she also sucks up in cabinet meetings and basically knows how to play Trump. So congratulations, I guess. Now, going back to Loomer, she's not happy about any of this. Now, she hates Pam Bondi. And so it's really funny to see these people fight, okay? In fact, on a recent podcast appearance, Loomer said that Pam Bondi is a liar. We cannot trust Pam Bondi anymore. She's on Fox News more than she does her job. Hey, joke's on you. She's not even doing her job. She never was. She was picked to not do her job, just to listen to what Stephen Miller does. So there you go. I doubt that'll make her feel better, though. I mean, even though she probably does like Stephen Miller. Look, here's the thing. About her job, it seems pretty secure. As I mentioned, Trump really likes her because she knows how to stay in his favor. And the latest example of that is, remember, Pam Bondi is the one who signed off on the bribe, okay, given to him by the Qatari royal family. That luxury Boeing 747-8, okay, the basically the flying whorehouse, all right, that Trump is like, oh, I wanted, I'd be stupid not to take that. Okay, but that violates the emolument clause. But then again, I guess it would be stupid for him not to take it, because there's nothing bad that's going to happen to Donald Trump for taking it. Look, this is an obvious bribe, okay? It is illegal. It would violate the emoluments clause, but you would have to have a justice system that would enforce it. And guess who's running the justice system? The Justice Department. Stephen frickin' Miller. You think he's going to go, oh, Donald Trump, you shouldn't take that for an emolument. No. Come on. Come on. And look, during Trump's first administration, they tried to go after him for emoluments, right? Didn't work. Didn't work. And not only that, but again, considering how emoluments actually work, all you would have to do is just go and get permission from Congress to take this gift, right? And Republicans in Congress will likely rubber stamp it anyway. That's it. All right. So they're not going to say no. There you go. So Donald Trump gets a free flying whorehouse, and that's it. And everybody's just supposed to be okay with it because the people that are in power are totally okay with this corruption. And look, Bondi, as I mentioned when I talked about this the other day, she was a lobbyist for the Qatari government. She's making $115,000 in consulting fees. 6 figures. So, yeah, she knows how to bribe Donald Trump because she was getting bribed by the same people. Because, of course. So, yes, that is why Pam Bondi's job is very, very secure. Now, as I mentioned, too, Stephen Miller is totally fine with this arrangement because she defers to him, but also gives him cover. Okay? It is the perfect setup for everyone involved. That is, of course, with one major exception, the American people. Yes, $115,000 per month. I don't know why I keep getting the streams late. It's because my streams are always late anyway. Like, I need to get better with actually getting here on time. But something always delays me. But anyway, any funny stories at all today? Unfortunately, no. These are not funny. These are pretty disastrous. But although you might enjoy the sex toy story, I guess. We'll see. Donald Trump was infamous for watching Fox News nonstop during his first term. And I doubt that's changed. Okay. Let's move on. The Trump administration's war on the judiciary has escalated after arresting a Milwaukee County judge accused of blocking ICE agents. Federal grand jury has indicted Judge Hannah Dugan on Tuesday after she was accused of trying to help an undocumented immigrant evade arrest by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. Dugan, 66, was arrested late last month for allegedly helping undocumented migrant Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a Mexican national, in court on battery charges avoid ICE agents. Dugan is charged with concealing a person from arrest and obstruction of proceedings and faces up to 6 years in prison and a maximum fine of $350,000 if convicted. Jeez. According to the 13-page federal complaint, Dugan helped Flores Ruiz, who appeared in her courtroom for a pretrial conference last month after she learned that ICE agents were at the courthouse seeking his arrest. An FBI affidavit described Dugan as visibly angry at the arrival of ICE agents in her courtroom. But see, that affidavit doesn't tell the entire story. The reason that she was angry is because the ICE agents were not respecting the due process. Okay. Now, it makes sense, though, that she was angry because what are these idiots doing in my courtroom without the right kind of warrant? Now, she then is accused of escorting Flores Ruiz out of the courtroom through a side jury door to avoid these federal agents. Of course, that didn't work. He was later taken into custody and all that. So here's the thing. Considering that this man was already in the justice system, what's the issue? Where's the issue here? The issue with the agents of ICE is the fact that they were not following due process. Remember, since 2019, there was a federal policy that existed for ICE to refrain from making routine arrests at courthouses. She then, of course, questioned the agents in the hallway and asked them whether or not they had the correct warrant. You need a judicial warrant. Instead, what they had was an administrative warrant, which is the wrong kind of warrant to make an arrest inside of a courtroom. Dugan then told the agents, come back when you've got a real warrant, a judicial warrant, and told them to speak to Chief Judge Carl Ashley. They refused. They didn't care, again, because they don't care about due process, and they went and arrested Flores Ruiz anyway. And so that's what's going on here. So, look, due process is supposed to be, it's constitutionally protected, okay, and says that due process shall be afforded to everyone who is in the United States. That's it. Doesn't matter if you are documented or undocumented. Everyone here in the United States, physically present, must have due process. They didn't follow that, ICE. And yet she's the one who gets arrested and indicted. Absolutely ridiculous. Look, here's the thing. The whole point of doing this is to scare the judges. The Trump administration has been fighting with the judiciary because judges keep having to stop them from doing illegal things, which includes defying judicial rulings, okay? Even when it comes to the Supreme Court. Okay, the Trump administration's ignoring the Supreme Court. But, of course, that is what happens when you give authoritarians immunity. Gee, John Roberts, bet you're really, regretting that one, huh? Giving this madman immunity from everything? You knew, maybe you didn't, but you should have known that these people are going to use that immunity to break the law with no repercussions, okay? And look, not only that, but the administration has called for the impeachment of removal of judges who issued the rulings which are counter to things that Donald Trump wants. That's it. And now they're taking the next step when they're just arresting judges. Even though they're the ones who, again, violated due process. Of course. Of course. This is a lawless administration, and I've been saying that for quite some time. And while this arrest is the first judge, I have a feeling that it will not be the last judge. Now, in a statement to Newsweek following the indictment, Dugan's lawyer, Craig Mastituano, said that his client, quote, asserts her innocence and looks forward to being vindicated in court following this unnecessary arrest. And again, unnecessary 100%. In fact, you had the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel that quoted 5 legal experts, including former federal prosecutors, that said that they do not believe Dugan should have been charged with a federal crime to begin with. Christopher Wellborn, president of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, said that American democracy rests upon the independence of the judiciary, and any retaliatory action from the executive branch that appears to undermine this foundation demands our unwavering scrutiny and a resounding response. That's one of them. There's more. Retired Massachusetts Supreme Court Justice Geraldine Hines said that this kind of prosecution is just an effort to intimidate judges. Monica Isham, a circuit court judge in Sawyer County, Wisconsin, emailed other state judges asking, guidance requested, or I refuse to hold court. Damn. In the email, she noted that she had sworn an oath to uphold both the U.S. and Wisconsin constitutions and said, I have no intention of allowing anyone to be taken out of my courtroom by ICE and sent to a concentration camp. So, yes, finally, you got people labeling what it is, because that's exactly what it is. See, we're talking about CCOT here, okay, for terrorists, ostensibly, but not really, not in practice. because they're sending innocent people there, people without criminal. About 75%, 3/4 of all the people that have been sent by the Trump administration to CCOT have no criminal record whatsoever. No, it's a concentration camp. 100%. Especially, she added, without due process, as both of the constitutions we swore to support requires. That's a strong response. Strong response. But nonetheless, it doesn't really matter to the Trump administration because they're not listening. They do not care. Trump has turned ICE into his own personal brown shirt army. Hey, the people that were saying, myself included, abolish ICE? Turns out we were right. Yeah, but it's not just abolishing ICE is not good enough anymore. You see, that was the compromise position. No, the real position should be to arrest and prosecute members of ICE after abolishing this, this criminal organization. That said, this will likely not be the last attack on the judiciary from this regime. The constitutional crisis, it is no longer coming. It is already here. Crystal Blue Persuasion in the chat says Judge Dugan didn't commit any crime, federal or otherwise, simply for trying to give an immigrant due process. She is a hero. Exactly. But they do not want judges to give, or anyone to give, immigrants due process. They do not care. All of them, yes, should be prosecuted and jailed. ICE, FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, etc. Yet we've got this entire, surveillance and state that is basically filled at this point with criminals doing criminal things. And so, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Okay. And as Jedi Protector, points out, a person, not citizens. Exactly. Any person in the United States shall be afforded by the Constitution due process. It's not saying citizens, not saying if you have the correct documentation. No, it says person. But you know what? That gets to the core of the issue, that they do not believe that immigrants are people. So there you go. Anybody watching Andor see the similarities? I have not started season 2 of Andor yet because I am waiting for my wife and I to be able to watch it together. But I'm really looking forward to it. So no spoilers, please. I hope that all the MAGA Republicans get voted out of office, go to prison at the end for treason. Says Sharon Ramey over on Facebook. All right, so why don't we go to the next segment here? We're talking about the big, beautiful bill that the Republicans are pushing. Fun times. On Tuesday, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tore into the proposed Medicaid cuts within President Donald Trump's and the Republicans' big, beautiful bill that they're trying to pass.
And the math is not adding up. They're trying to convince people that they are cutting millions of undocumented people from payroll, from Medicare, acting as though this is what's going to save it. Even if you believe everything that Republicans have said today, they are identifying 1 million, their claim, which I dispute, but if you believe them, their claim is that 1 million undocumented people are on Medicaid. So why are they trying to cut 13.7 million Americans off their health care? By the Republicans' own Energy and Commerce tweet this morning, their claim is 7.6 million people are somehow ineligible for health care. So why are they cutting 13.7 million Americans off their health care? They've asked us to read this bill, and we have. This bill bans the people that they kick off of Medicaid from even buying their own insurance from the Affordable Care Act exchange. So once you are kicked off Medicaid, you then can't even buy your own health insurance. It increases costs for people who they deem eligible and who are low income and forces them to pay even more. And if you have a private insurer, don't worry, you're getting screwed over too, because your healthcare premiums are going to skyrocket from the disaster that is happening from this bill.
All right, so I love how she, of course, points out the absurdity of claiming that millions of undocumented people are getting Medicaid. Oh my God, how dare they? Well, of course that's a lie. Okay, no, Republican math ain't mathin'. Okay, and that's probably because they're using alternative math, which is not real math at all. But somehow it ends up helping Republicans. Yeah, alternative math. It's weird how that always seems to work out. But okay, now let me give you the real numbers, okay, and the real information. All right, undocumented immigrants are not eligible to be able to get federally funded coverage that includes Medicaid, CHIP, or Medicare, and they're not allowed to purchase coverage through the ACA marketplaces. No undocumented immigrants are getting these programs. Okay, the only federal funding that happens to go to the so-called illegals, right? No person is illegal, but that's what they call them. The only federal funding that really goes to them is when there is a medical emergency and they're forced to go to the hospital. Now, undocumented immigrants actually, and immigrants generally use less health care, okay, than American citizens. So they don't go to the doctor as much, all right? And so there's that. But anyway, since they're not likely to be able to afford our massively broken healthcare system, Medicaid spending ends up reimbursing the hospitals for the emergency care that hospitals are legally obligated to provide. So that basically is the extent of federal monies going towards the care of undocumented immigrants. It's because, again, if they go to the hospital, they're forced to, Medicaid and the government are forced to reimburse the hospital. That's it. Okay, that's it. Now, of course, the other option would be just let them die then. Let them die in the streets. No, that's unacceptable. And by the way, how much money is going to this anyway? Well, that spending represented less than 1% of overall Medicaid spending between the years 2017 and 2013. So it is just a drop in the bucket. Okay. Now, that said, there are immigrants that can qualify for Medicaid and CHIP. Okay. But those are the ones that are lawfully here. And of course, there's a lot of restrictions on this. All right. In general, in addition to meeting eligibility requirements, lawfully present immigrants must have a qualified immigration status to be eligible for Medicaid or CHIP. And many, including most lawful permanent residents, must wait 5 years after obtaining qualified status before they're even allowed to enroll. Now, that said, while waiting, they can enroll in marketplace coverage and receive federal subsidies during this 5-year waiting period. And the subsidies, of course, do not go to them. No, the subsidies are a handout to health insurance companies. Okay, so it's the health insurance companies that are getting the monies, not undocumented immigrants and not legal immigrants either. Okay, that's it. Now, some immigrants with qualified status, such as refugees and asylees, as well as citizens of Compact of Free Association Nations, do not have to wait 5 years before enrolling. So that is why, by the way, the immigrants coming over from South Africa, the Afrikaners, the Boers, okay, they're coming over and they're getting all sorts of goodies, all sorts of freebies from the taxpayer, including getting flown over on a charter flight paid for by us. So there you go. That's how they're able to do that. Now, some immigrants, such as those with temporary protected status, are lawfully present, but do not have a qualified status and are not eligible to enroll, regardless of their length of time in the country. Individuals with deferred action for childhood arrivals, the DACA status, are not eligible for Medicaid or CHIP, and the implementation of a marketplace coverage expansion for them remains subject to ongoing litigation. States must also verify citizenship and immigration status with the SSA and Department of Homeland Security to determine the eligibility for coverage. So you can see there's a ton of rules here surrounding who gets Medicaid. It's just not true when Republicans tell you that, oh, you got millions of illegals out of here that are getting the benefits. Yeah. No, it's just a lie. They're lying to your face. They're gaslighting you. Okay. Just lying right to you. And you've got so many people, Republicans, that are buying into it. This is the fake news of fake news. Okay. The fakiest of news. Okay. Coming from Republicans right from their mouth. If a Republican is speaking, they're freaking lying to you. Okay. And they're lying to you to get you to be angry at immigrants, all in the service of white supremacy. Again, they don't have any problem with bringing the Afrikaners over, okay, from South Africa. The white, I would say, fairly wealthy, doing well, people from South Africa, bringing them over. They've got no problem with that. They think it's great that they're getting not only brought over here, but getting all the benefits too. And they're just mad when someone of color gets any kind of help and assistance. And that, again, is rooted in white supremacy. Okay? Now, that said, there's another, reason why they continue to lie about undocumented people getting, benefits, right? And it's an excuse to cut Medicaid for American citizens. Yeah. At the end of the day, this bill is a complete and utter disaster. It's not a big, beautiful bill. It's a massive tax cut for rich people and corporations, and it will strip healthcare from millions, as well as food assistance from millions. An estimate from the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office had said that the proposals would reduce the number of people with healthcare by at least 7.6 million from the Medicaid changes alone. But that's not all. Up to nearly 9 million people could end up losing their health care. The bill also punishes single parents by making it harder to receive food stamps, the SNAP program, and gives Trump power over nonprofit organizations. And so, yes, this is far, far from being a big, beautiful bill. No, it's just a giveaway to massive corporations, the rich, while punishing at the same time the poorest Americans, all based on a lie. That's the actual name of the bill. Disaster. Disaster. All right. Yeah. Big, beautiful disaster. That's what it is. And speaking of disaster, we've got more efforts for Republicans to get into your bedroom. Yay. That's exactly what we need. Hold on, but before I get to that, I've been dying to use these sound clips here, so I'm just gonna do it anyway.
I got a new strap-on harness today.
Not if you're in Texas, though. Can't have one of those.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth.
Well, I can't do anything about that one. But there you go. I had to. I'm sorry. I had to. Okay. I feel a little bit better. All right. A Texas bill introduced last month would require anyone looking to buy a sex toy to present identification. Hey, if you want to buy this thing, you need to show me some ID. As if, they're buying something dangerous. Well, I guess when it comes to Republicans, they would consider a sex toy to be dangerous.
Sexual anarchy.
Now, the bill filed last month by North Texas Senator Angela Paxton, yes, that is the wife of the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, would require online shoppers to submit photo ID before daring to purchase a sex toy. Now, Senate Bill 3003 claims to protect minors by regulating the online sale of so-called obscene devices to those under 18. According to Texas Penal Code, an obscene device is qualified as a device including a dildo or artificial vagina. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to do it though. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to play those the sound clips, okay? But okay. Anything that is designed or marketed as a useful primary or as useful primarily for the stimulation of human genital organs. Okay. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too much.
Sexual anarchy.
Too much of it. Too much.
This election is about the people.
No, but it's not. No. Now, the bill would make selling and distributing sex toys to a minor or failing to implement age verification process at the point of sale a Class A misdemeanor. Punishable by up to a year in jail and a fine of $4,000, and also imposes a $5,000 civil penalty per offense. Okay. Now, they have some in the bill. They lay out some, a bit different processes that you can prove your age, including submitting a government issued ID or utilizing third-party verification services. Oh, that's great. Yeah, let's get a third party involved here. Having a threesome that accesses public records to verify age and limiting sales to payment methods only available to those 18 and up. What kids are sitting there using and having these payment methods where they could buy sex toys online? I have no idea. No idea at all. But basically, at the end of the day, the bill puts up a ton of barriers to individuals that are just wanting to have a little bit of fun with themselves. I mean, it's kind of bizarre to me how obsessed they are with NoFap, okay? But you know what? If they're doing that, they're having fun with themselves. That means they're not having sex, right? Oh, see, here's the thing. This is the real reason, what I think anyway. Obviously, this bill is not to protect minors, right? But it actually is there to encourage couples to have more sex. Obviously, married couples. Because if you combine this with all the anti-abortion bills the state has already passed, what you're looking at is more sex, more babies. That's it. More babies means more cheap workers. Oh, look at that. So, and it makes sense because we're basically living under an authoritarian regime right now, and that has embraced natalism. I mean, look at the Trump administration, or look at Elon Musk, for example, with his own little personal harem, talking about how, we need we need to have more babies. Our population is not growing enough to replace it, so we got to have more babies, right? And then you got Trump, rolling out tax breaks or incentives, the child tax credit from $2,000 to $5,000, and then wanting to give people, like women, medals. You go back and you look at authoritarian regimes. That's exactly what they did. They embraced natalism. Okay. And of course, you got RFK and his weird eugenics that are going on at HHS. All this stuff makes sense when you look at it through the lens of, oh, this is what Nazi regimes do. Oh, so there you go. There you go. So, yes. And by the way, the purpose of their natalism is to have more white babies. All right. More white babies specifically. So, hey, look, if you're horny and you can't look at porn or you can't use the toys, well, there's sex, right? But be warned that sex is only for reproduction. So the only options there are to either go without or you start pumping out them babies. And I think that's the real end goal of all of these bills. Okay. Now, Dr. Shamira Howard, a licensed clinical social worker and sex educator for WeVibe, which is a couple's sexual wellness brand, said this, quote, requiring ID to purchase sex toys sends a message that pleasure is something to be policed and surveilled. Yeah, pretty much. That's what Republicans want to do. They want to get into your bedroom and police you on the type of sex that you have. That's it. Or what toys you want to play with or whatever. Okay. And people like Angela Paxton, they're the ones that are trying to push this as well. Okay. They're all doing this. Now, Howard continues by saying that this pathologizes something that is completely normal and turns a private, healthy act into something shameful. This kind of legislation doesn't protect people. It embarrasses them. It creates unnecessary barriers and reinforces harmful stigmas that many of us have spent years trying to dismantle. Yep. And look, shame is one of the biggest weapons the right wing has against women. Okay, that's it. And Texas, despite allegedly being the freedom state, they have been policing sex devices for decades. Remember, back in 1973, they passed an obscenity statute. Now, originally, the law banned sex toys, but was amended back in 2003 to allow the sale of those toys. But still, you can only have 6 of them. If you got 7, you're going to get in trouble. And that's exactly what happened. Joanne Webb was arrested in 2004 for having more than one device on her. Okay. Now she was hosting some multi-level marketing sales parties. Okay. So, I mean, it's one of those, I've got sex toys. I'm going to sell them. Right. Well, she obviously, in order to host those parties, had more than 6 toys on her at once. Oh no, she was arrested for that. Now, of course, thankfully, a district judge ruled that law unconstitutional and unenforceable. But of course, in Texas, they don't really care. So it remains within the Texas Penal Code. So there you go. Now, Howard added, these restrictions absolutely function as a proxy attack on women's sexual autonomy. Sex toys are tools of empowerment. She said tool. They allow people, especially women, to explore their pleasure, address sexual concerns, and experience intimacy on their own terms. That challenges traditional gender roles that often expect women to be passive participants in their own pleasure. So there you go. She's not wrong. Okay. Now, that said, look, obviously, you don't want kids buying this stuff. I don't. Or looking at pornography. Yeah, of course. I mean, that said, I did when I was a teen. I didn't get I didn't get ruined for my entire life. And obviously, yes, young adults are going to get curious, right? And all that stuff. But no, looking at that stuff when I was a teenager did not destroy me. But that doesn't mean that I want children to have easy access to it. I don't. So now that leads me to the question of age verification, right? Now, does that actually work? The answer to that is no. Age verification does not work to stop teens from accessing that material. In fact, researchers led by David Lang at Stanford University's Polarization and Social Change Lab found that age verification laws were linked to an increase in searches for virtual private network services, VPNs, which can mask a user's location, thereby allowing people in states where you have age verification laws to appear as if they're visiting websites from within a state where no such laws exist. Our findings, according to the paper, highlight that while these regulation efforts do reduce traffic to compliant firms, and likely a net reduction overall to this type of content, individuals adapt primarily by moving to content providers that do not require age verification. Yes, of course. That makes sense. This is basically the same reaction people had to prohibition. No, alcohol didn't go away. It just went underground. Same thing. You try to ban porn, it's going to go underground. And people are still going to look at it. Okay? So in addition to these laws not working as intended, obviously there's the issue of privacy. Privacy for adult individuals. According to staff attorney Lisa Femia of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who's been fighting against these kinds of laws, she said that Texas age verification law robs internet users of anonymity, exposes them to privacy and security risks, and blocks some adults entirely from accessing sexual content that's protected under the First Amendment. Yes, that's it. But here's the thing. Republicans in these states do not actually care about freedom. They don't want to protect freedom, and they really actually don't care about children. Okay? In fact, Howard said that in Texas, we're seeing a pattern of proposed legislation that reflects a discomfort with pleasure, intimacy, and personal agency, especially when it comes to women and marginalized communities. These attacks aren't about protection. They're about control. Because of course they are. They always have been. That's the whole point, to control women. People who want to control others always end up using the shield, the excuse of, what about the children? We got to protect the children. When in reality, you have so many other things, real things, including Republican politicians, that are harming children every single day. Children and women are just breeding stock for the GOP. It's this Jedi protector. Yep. Okay. But yes, in case you were wondering, the person pictured here is Angela Paxton. So. And she wants to be in your bedroom. Yay. All right, so moving on. Last story of the day. Already. It's been a fast show. It really has. Okay. The Democratic National Committee is not exactly feeling all that democratic these days. On Monday, they took the first step in ousting Vice Chair David Hogg, as well as another of its vice chairs, claiming that, oh, we messed up the election, we got to redo it. Oh, interesting. Now, the DNC's Credentials Committee voted on Monday to nullify the results of the February election in which Hogg and Pennsylvania State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta had won 2 of the 3 vice chair positions. Now, Hogg has publicly called for primary challenges to longtime safe incumbents. So that, of course, has made these very same incumbents pretty angry. They're not happy with this one. Now, the vote followed a procedural complaint from another potential vice chair that one of the losing candidates made, challenging the way that the election was determined. Now, for me, if you believe that this is strictly because of procedural issues, then you do not know the DNC. Okay. Again, as I mentioned, that they are pretty angry at David Hogg for wanting to get his group to primary safe Democrats because they have not stood up against Donald Trump. That means the party leaders do not want to fight Donald Trump. I mean, honestly. Now, the committee did eventually vote to recommend the DNC hold new ballots for Hogg and Kenyatta's vice chair positions. Now, Hogg responded by saying that the DNC has taken its first steps to remove him from his position. Here's his quote. While this vote was based on how the DNC conducting its officers' elections, which I had nothing to do with, it is impossible to ignore the broader context of my work to reform the party, which loomed large over this vote. The DNC has pledged to remove me, and this vote has provided an avenue to fast-track that effort. I think he's right. I think he's right about them. This, of course, despite the party leaders saying that, oh, no, you know what? No, there was a procedural issue, but also we really don't like the way that David Hogg is trying to get involved in primaries. You know, we're supposed to be neutral in primaries. Oh, interesting. Look, I would be in favor of that if the party had actually stayed neutral in any of the very important presidential primaries that have happened within the last 12 years. Okay, they've gotten involved multiple times. I mean, anybody remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz? What she did? And she was ousted from her position for putting her thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton. But of course, when they tried to elevate Hillary Clinton, well, a lot of people turned their back on that, and it wasn't really important to them. You know, because, hey, look, we got to get Hillary Clinton, and then now we've got to get Kamala Harris and, you know, support her and put her without a primary. And look, full disclosure here, right? At the time, in 2024, right after Biden had stepped down and named Kamala Harris, I was one of the people, and again, full transparency here, because I'm admitting how effing wrong I was. I thought, we're already too late into the process. We gotta go with it. Okay. She's got the war chest. It's going to be really, really hard to hold a primary. I was absolutely wrong on that. We should have held a primary. It should have been a primary. I don't care. I effed up on that one. So I own that. All right. I'm going to own that 100%. I messed up on that. Okay. So, yes, we should have held a primary, and we should have not let the DNC get involved in those primaries. That said, now what we have is a situation where, yes, a DNC official is wanting to get involved in doing primaries, and to support ousting these older incumbents. And you know what? I actually do think that's a great idea, because I think at this point, the Democratic Party is so unresponsive to actual people who are not in power right now. Okay. They're so unresponsive to the people that, look, they're at 27%. Okay. 27% approval. This is after all of the damage that Donald Trump has done to our system, to our government, to the people. And still, people will look at the Democratic Party and be like, no, these guys suck. You got to do something. And right now, David Hogg is the only person who is actually out there. Okay. He's the only one that's in a position of power saying, yes, let's change things. Let's do something different. Okay. But again, critics are right when they point out that all of this, their reaction to this, shows the Democrats inability to even accept mild criticism. You dare criticize me? No, we can't have it.
Can't let that happen.
We got to get rid of you. Okay. How dare you criticize Democrats? Well, look at Donald Trump. Look at who enabled him. Okay. And here's the thing, right? David Hogg is not some wild-eyed lefty, pro-socialist communist. No, he's ideologically aligned with the party overall. All right? But at the same time, he is a young person who understandably feels that the party has let him down. Okay? Because they haven't been fighting for the people. All right? And he's right. He's right. They have refused to meaningfully resist Donald Trump as he continues to trigger numerous constitutional crises while seeking to suspend Americans' fundamental constitutional rights, like the right of due process. Now, you could argue that, all this DNC infighting, that gets in the way of fighting Donald Trump. But unfortunately, that's not true, okay? Because the Democrats have had ample time to fight Donald Trump and have really kind of refused to do it, all right? That outside of sending some strongly worded letters from Chuck Schumer, oh my God, that'll get him. That'll stop a fascist. No. Look, at the end of the day, right now, the party is showing you that certain politicians in the safe seats, right, holding on to their own personal power is more important to them than actually representing the people and more, winning against Republicans. I mean, isn't the point of the Democratic Party to help their members win and become a majority so they can pass good policy to help the people? Apparently not. Not at this point. They're too busy serving the donors, too busy serving AIPAC, okay, as they flood our political system with money in order to get more John Fettermans that are going to be totally fine with genociding everyone in Gaza so that Trump can then build Gaza-Lago. All right. So that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. And yeah, I know some of you probably hate it when I get critical about the Democrats, but we wouldn't be in this position right now with a fascist government had the Democrats actually been strong and more responsive to the people. And so that's it. That's the reality of the situation. Now, that said, if David Hogg ends up getting booted, well, he could still run again for vice chair, okay, according to the reports. But I do wonder, though, how much they're going to attempt to try to put their thumbs on the scale against him. I mean, it's not like they haven't done that before. And if they do, I mean, yes, he could lose. But what if he ends up still winning? It is entirely possible. And I'm sure if that happens, we're going to see an absolute meltdown from the establishment. Oh, it'd be great. Okay. So there you go. That is all I've got for y'all today. Thank you for watching the show. Please consider becoming a patron or a channel member if you enjoy what I do, if you enjoy the takes, or just if you've been informed at all. Or if I have just made you laugh because you enjoy my presentation style. Any reason, you can sign up, become a patron, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf, or hit the join button below if you're on YouTube, or become a subscriber on the different various platforms, Facebook, Twitch, etc. All that stuff. All right. So with that said, yes, it did go by pretty quick too. Crazy. But anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, your friends, your families, your communities. Mutual aid is very, very important. My precious are terrible in a good way. I know. That's the whole point. Finally, somebody's seeing me for the misunderstood genius that I am. Okay, now I'm just overdoing it. Okay. No. I need to back off on that. Okay. All right. Change begins with you. Okay. At the local level, at the community level, and making sure to get to know your friends, families, and neighbors so that you could fight against this fascist regime together. So, all right. Love you all. Thank you, and we'll see you later on. Have a great day.